Good morning, good evening, and good night, Galaxy. I am your host, JohnyChainsaw, joined by my co-host, AZPotato. Between the two of us, we make up number 1 and number 2 on the Power Destroyed leaderboards for Server 22. AZPotato is currently number 1 in power on Server 22, and AZPotato is also currently number 3 in resources rated on Server 22. This is a second episode of our podcast series, and we got a pretty good reception on our first podcast, which drove us to now continue our series. Potato, if you want to just say hi to the galaxy and introduce yourself to those who may not know you.
Yeah, great to be here, Johnny, and glad to do this second episode. And I think we're going to have a kind of really nice discussion today. And I'll let you introduce the topic, but really happy to be here and be able to share some information and some insights and some gameplay style and that sort of thing with other players out there across the galaxy and all the servers who are interested.
Yeah, today's episode is going to be kind of an insight into just mine and Potato's play style of pretty much what are we thinking? Why do we do what we do? For those not on Server 22, I'm pretty notorious for clearing miners. I don't care if they are on zero mines, if they're under protection, over protection. I don't care if they're warships. Any ship that I could hit, I will attack. And Potato also has pretty frowned upon when it comes to a lot of the ROE abiding players on the server. Potato's not afraid to hit miners on mines with wrong crews or wrong ships. Do you want to just talk a little bit about how mine and your play style?
No, so I would agree that in some ways people see us as similar type players, but I truly think that you and I have a completely different approach to what we do and how we go about it and the reasons that we do so. And that's what we really want to dive into today. So maybe on that note, I'm just gonna call you out on this one, Johnny. So you've been on this game since the beginning, or very, very near the beginning, and you've been consistent in your approach, and you've built this notoriety. Well, honestly, you're like one of the most hated players, right? In a certain range of player levels on the entire server. And what people say about you is you don't have any other options. All you do is hit miners. You don't have really strong ships. When somebody's there to defend against you, all you do is run away. And the only thing you care about is building up your power destroyed numbers and causing anxiety for people playing the game, right? And so how do you respond to that?
That's a good question. I don't think it's as clear cut. There's definitely a part of me that enjoys inflicting that anxiety on other players, because for me, I don't want this game to ever be easy. I want it to be hard. And for me, I think the game might be a little bit harder for me than it is for other players because, I'm not allowed to go out and mine and I don't have these strong ships. But I don't want people to take this game for granted, too, where they're more or less inventing rules that protect their ships, through ROE. And then they get a lot of times people abuse those benefits, especially with Warp 40 packs and Warp 75 packs. All I want is just everybody to go out and play their own game. Do I run and hide? Yes. But that's part of the game I've created for myself. And, I got to ask you, though, kind of on the sense of putting each other on the spot. Recently in my alliance, which is JLP on server 22, you've been hitting a lot of our guys' ships pretty consistently. And, I know a lot of the people in my alliance want to know, are you just having like a tantrum right now, or is there a reason behind this madness that you're inflicting on JLP?
Well, both. So the tantrum part of it, and let's be honest, like this is a game, right? So I personally don't ever let the game leap from the screen to my soul and affect me like in a negative way in my personal life, even though I make it look like that in the game. And now, to be fair, have I ever been frustrated playing the game and things aren't going my way and that? Of course, right? We all have. And we've all wanted to go off on some wild rampage and just kill everything. And I've done it. But in general, this is about so my approach, and I kind of follow an ROE that I've established, and that is I go kill. If I go into a system, I clear out all the zero miners. I clear out anything that's over cargo just because why not? And then I start clearing out what I consider slow miners. And when people put botany bays or devores or even a Vidar now, I'm seeing a lot more of on a G3 node. Like, come on, you're just tying up a node that somebody else in the game could have used. But it's not because I have some sort of personal issue with it. It's really about, honestly, it's something to do, but it's not personal. And you come up with things and you throw things out in Galaxy chat or Alliance chat and stir the pot a little bit to make the game fun, for me at least. But it's not a personal, like I'm truly like angry or fuming or any of that stuff. This is all about fun.
But what's with your current, where you're just, see, what you're saying makes sense. From our alliance's point of view recently, it's been very one-sided, where you've more or less only been targeting a single alliance. There's a reason behind that, though?
Oh, of course. And honestly, I haven't been targeting a single alliance. It's just that when alliances chat, they feel like they're getting singled out, right? And so when we talked about in the last episode, we talked about Dan, right? And kind of the Warp 40 thing and what he did there. And so he like came and hit one of my ships, killing Borg. And I didn't care about the nanoprobes, right? I was more interested in finding out how many Borg probes I could kill in one run. And he kind of interrupted it. Well, whatever, right? He's going to do his thing as he's always done. But it sort of gave me like, hey, here's a cool reason to go hit somebody. And kind of pretend that it's justified just to stimulate some response and some activity and some animosity and discussion and flavor to the game. But I'm not upset at Dan, and I'm not upset at JLP, and I don't have any kind of like hatred like living within me. It was more like, hey, here's a cool opportunity to go, have something to do, honestly.
Yeah. And, for you, I pretty much think you could write your ticket to any alliance, because, yeah, there's a lot of animosity lately in the or in the galaxy when it comes to you. But I also know that there's a lot of selfish people in a lot of these alliances, and they would just want your power and your ability to place real high in certain events. Now, I think the question that's on everybody's mind, though, is why are you currently in a solo alliance pretty much when you were in some big alliances in the past? I know you helped to found some of the largest alliances on our server, but why are you by yourself now? Is it something because you're mad at everyone? Did you run out of targets, or are you just kind of want to do havoc and not have to pay any repercussions, because you more or less do have the strongest ships on the server, and there's not many people, if anyone, that could stop you.
No, you know what I found out was, I wanted to, maybe there's like the expression is cow pies don't stink until you break them open, right? And sometimes I like to do that. Just break them open and let's see what happens and go have some fun. On the other hand, when you're part of an alliance, and it's important that when you're part of an alliance that you come together as a team and you have consistent rules that you follow together and you set a standard as a team of what you're about. Well, when I wanted to go break open cow pies, that didn't fit everybody on the team, especially when you're on one of the larger alliances where you've got 72 or 75 players in one group, and you have somebody like me or anybody else who wants to do something slightly different. Well, the result of that is it's not about my ships getting killed. It's about everybody else killing their ships. So you have a responsibility when you're part of an alliance to support your team, right? And you represent them. And I can't properly represent some really strong players on the server and then go do my own thing at the same time, because the repercussions hit them.
So no, I gotta ask you though. I'm gonna interrupt you real quick and ask you. So I know sometimes your play style, you are on these alliances, you do make quote unquote friends, or at least people that you're chatting with in game, whether it's through Galaxy Chat or Alliance Chat. Now, have some of those players sent you love letters, and more or less it pulls back the curtain a little bit on what type of person they really are by what they write to you? Or have you not really run into issues like that?
No, well, you and I both get plenty of love letters, right, in the game. No question about it. I mean, you have your own Discord channel just for your love letters. So we both get some interesting, creative, and sometimes vile, right, love letters. But on the other hand, there's people I've connected with in the game through the other alliances I've been in who remain long-term friends, and we just play the game in the spirit of it. And there are others that surprise me sometimes where, they say, I used to respect you, but now that you hit my minor on a 0 node, I no longer have respect, and you're this person who has wild sex with farm animals and, that sort of thing. And that part, you learn some things about people that maybe you didn't want to know, or you realize they weren't who you thought they were. But the people that you really connect with, they're good people, all in all, right? And you hit somebody on a minor and they're 0 or they're under cargo or dry or over cargo. They take it in the spirit of the game and they move on. And those are the people that you really have meaningful, long-lasting connections with.
I know a lot of people out there say, oh, these guys are full of it. All they do it is to pad their stats and whatnot. So I'm just going to run down a list of some questions. I just want you to answer yes or no to them. And then at the end, we can go back and you could expand on why you said yes or why you said no. Do you care about your kill-death ratio, KD, for PvP?
No, not at all.
Power destroyed. Resources rated.
That one's a guide of how well I'm doing in resources. So yes.
Do you feel that you are given any kind of free pass that you can hit a member of a certain alliance and you don't think you should be able to get retaliation back from that alliance?
No, I would fully expect retaliation.
So, all in all, do stats matter to you in this game?
You know, the one I like is the resources rated, even though it's not 100% accurate. Meaning, you know, the what shows up in your stats is off your base cargo, not off of what you get with Ston added and other officers. But it's a guide of kind of who's out there raiding a lot, and I like to see who's active raiding and who's out killing other players and who's out, you know, progressing through the game. So I look at the stats, but I don't play the game for the stats.
Fair enough. Because I think a lot of people out there listening, they think that's all we care about. And, you know, to kind of answer a lot of the questions I answered you for the Galaxy is, yes, while I'm very aware of my power destroyed stats and I'm very aware of my kill death ratio, which is right now a little bit above 30, I don't care about them as much as people think. What I do care about, though, is that quote unquote social dynamic I create by in game having this persona of JohnyChainsaw, which people not on server 22 might just say, well, what are these guys talking about? If you had to name a few people that were just strictly hated and hunted by everyone, I'm one of those people. And for some people, that probably sounds like a horrible way to play the game. Why would you want to be hunted? Why allowed to mine? Why would you not allow to be able to hit hostiles and complete dailies? But it's fun to me, and I only think people who understand why that is fun, is if they've at least tried it once. No.
Well, and many people have, right? And not everybody, but everybody's been tempted. And if you think you haven't been tempted to just go out on a Johnny Chainsaw rampage once in a while, you're kidding yourself, or you'll get there soon. Because I've done it, and it wasn't for me. That's not my. I don't like personally just go kill everything in a system. I like to have a reason why I'm killing them, even though it might only exist in my own mind, right? To be fair, but I just don't like. I can do it for a day or maybe 2 days straight. I certainly couldn't do it for 18 months, right, or 16 months or whatever we've had the game out for, like you have. It's astounding that you can sustain
what
that to
I
me.
don't like about certain players who do that, though, is I don't hide. And people listening are going to say Johnny hides all the time. What I mean I don't hide is what I'm saying is I don't change my name. I don't leave my alliance, create other alliances, and constantly change my name. There are some people who go on rampages. You have your honors out there who became a Duke Nukem and changed their name and, became the butt of a joke for most of our alliance for a long time. And they're hiding behind a different gamer tag. They're hiding behind another alliance of one. And then when they decide, okay, I want to go back to mining, they just change their name back and go back to one of the main alliances and more or less just think they're free to do what they want. Now, what do you think about those type of people opposed to at least us who we don't hide behind different names all the time?
Well, I think once in a while people need to vent. And that's okay. Like, let them go do their thing and try it out and see if it fits their style. And the ones who move they change their name, change their alliance, go do their thing, and then change back. I think what they found out is that's not the way they want to play the game. And that's perfectly okay. At least they've tried it, right? At least they've gone out and done something and experienced that part of the game. So I don't hold anything against them for it. But kind of what we were talking about before, when you're part of an alliance, right? Like me, and I've been part of several, or honors, like you mentioned, right? He's done his thing, but so have many other pretty big player names in the game they've had a moment where they needed to go just vent.
But don't you think that's a little bit of that
And
throwing rocks in a glass house kind of thing? Like there are some players out in the galaxy who think they could take that liberty and go out and do whatever they want, and then they get to decide on their terms when it's over. And as soon as it's over, they're shocked when people come and hit their miners or hit their ships. I think it's just a little, I don't know.
Oh no! I mean, you got to remember it's a game that like of course there's repercussions from what you do, which is part of the reason that I'm in an alliance on my own right now, is because if I wanted to go do my thing at will, well, you know, at the end of the day, it would affect anybody else who was on the same team as me, right? One way or another, it was going to affect them, and they didn't have a choice in it, so it wasn't fair to them. So it was better for me to be on my own than to be part of an alliance where they got the repercussions. Similar to what, you know, my kind of, you know, the thing Dan hit my ship, killing Borg, and I decided I would go hit all of JLP as an example, right? And I'm not actually mad at them or anything else. It just a kind of gave me an excuse. But that's part of being part of JLP or any other alliance, is when you have a player who goes and does something outside of what those, you know, alliance standards are, it reflects on the entire team, not just that one player. Now, so anything you want to do in the game, you've always got to be considering what's going to happen to the rest of my team, right, who are helping me get alliance rewards and compete in events and all of that. If it negatively affects them, they're not going to want you around. And so I'd say, honestly, if I called up NGNS or CAS as two of the bigger alliances on our server, I don't know that they would want me back, because they already know I do have a tendency of, I'm once in a while going to do my own thing, and it affects all of them. And so it's kind of a group decision. Would they want me back as a result of the actions I've shown in the past? And they might not want me there. And that's okay.
But I got to ask you this too. Right? So I think one of the words that gets thrown around a lot, at least towards me and probably towards you, just because of the sheer strength of your ships, is just being called a bully. Now, you know, I don't even want to really answer this question for a lot of people, but now, do you think you're a bully or not? Because it gets said a lot.
No, you know what? I like to go out and have some fun, and there's always this kind of automatic reaction of, if your ship is stronger than mine and you hit me and beat me, well, then you're a bully. Well, that's not true. You're not bullying people. You're not taking my lunch money. You're not, you know, causing me to do things that I wouldn't normally do. You're not threatening me. All you did was killed a miner, right? Well, you know, I killed a miner on a 0 node, and you weren't over cargo. I didn't take any resources from you. How does that possibly equate to bully?
I think that's what everybody instantly wants to go to, because everyone's always the victim, it feels like to me, where, I don't know, do you ever feel like everybody just always plays a victim?
No, you know what? There are players who do, for sure. And it depends on their play style. And there are others who say, okay, fine, you took out my miner, so what? Right? It's a game, and keep it into perspective. So you took out my miner that was sitting on a 0 node, and I came back and got the node back, or I didn't, or whatever, I'll mine more tomorrow. They just don't get upset by it. And there are others, as you know, because you have many thousands of love letters more than I do, of people that you hit somebody on a 0 node and you didn't give them a 5-minute warning. It's like you drove over their dog in the middle of the street. Like this personal affront that just damaged them personally. And it's important to remember this is
I think
a game.
people aren't able to sometimes separate what's a game and what's reality. And the only reason I really say that is because, like you mentioned, I have seen all the love letters that I've gotten. I mean, I've gotten things like death threats, personal threats, people threatening to dox me, people threatening to like call my work and do all these things and find out my real identity, and we're going to send stuff to you in the mail. Like, these are real love letters I've gotten. And for some people listening, they might say, there's no way Johnny's gotten real death threats over hitting a pixelated miner. But it's true. Like, this stuff happens, but yet people will call us the bullies, even though we're not really ever responding back with hateful stuff or anything. We're just playing the game as it was coded and designed by Scopely.
Yeah, I agree. And I've gotten personal death threats, and I mean, to the point literally where I actually had to call the local police department because the threats included my actual home address, my license plate number off of my car, the name of my children, like scary kind of stuff once in a while. And I'm thinking, like, wow, somebody is actually threatening to come kill my kids because I killed their miner and didn't take it. Like, wow. And of course it's all part of the community, right? And we have every type of person on our server. Once in a while, there's somebody who maybe takes it a little bit too seriously. And at the end of the day, it still is. This is a game.
So to kind of go up back, I know we brought this a little bit to some of the people listening at home, but that's what this podcast is about. It's about what are we thinking as players, me and Potato, and kind of what we've dealt with in this game. But even with saying everything we've said, I know for myself, I get a lot of joy out of this game, and I get a lot of joy out of a lot of different things. I get a joy out of the actual gameplay itself, from the social aspect, and even going one step further, which we're doing right now, is making these podcasts for some of these other players. And, I do want to touch a little bit on what you're able to share with some of the lower level players. Even me, I'm a level 33. I'm currently building ops for level 34 to get my D4. I'm kind of trying to go as fast as I can. But can you explain a little bit of like what kind of resource requirements you're looking at right now for all your upgrades? Because I know at your level, it more or less gets to a few billion per building. So what are two things? Your ops, or not your ops level, but your current building upgrades. And what are you looking for if you did want to upgrade your jelly to the next tier?
Oh boy, and that was a little bit of a surprise, and I don't think we're totally in sync with Scopely on what you get out of a pack or what you get for rewards. The rewards definitely scale up, right, which is helpful, but what you get, for example, out of the refinery, doesn't help me much at all when it comes to what do I want to do to get the ISS now, jelly to tier 8.
Can you upgrade, or sorry, can you refine G4 materials at your level? And if so, at what level was your refinery able to start refining G4 materials?
Yeah, I can refine G4 materials. And I can't remember if it was level 39 or 40 when I was able to start refining it. But when you think back to the very early days of the refinery, right, when you were, level 15, and what you got, and the frustration of how come I'm not getting rares, how come I'm not getting more uncommons, or once you hit level 20 on G3, why don't I get rares every time? Well, you start getting a lot more rares when you're level 38 than you did when you were level 20. Well, it appears that way on G4 as well, that early on, the only thing you can get is uncommon, right? Or a common. You don't get the uncommon until level 40 or 41, and you don't get rares until like 43. So there's and it requires an immense number when you talk about upgrading something like the Jelly or the Hydra or the Kelvin. One or two refines won't get you there.
So realistically,
right? You need
then,
hundreds of days.
Buy pack. So hypothetically, if you did have to buy $100 pack, would $100 pack be enough to upgrade your Jelly, or are we talking multiple packs, hundreds of dollars?
No, I think right now, if I decided I wanted to buy packs for the last upgrade on the Jelly for me to take it to tier 8, we're probably talking about $600 or $800 for
and we're
one
not even
upgrade.
Talking all the weapons, just a single upgrade, huh? Now, what are you looking at
single upgrade?
For par steel requirements for some of your buildings? Are we talking over $1 billion for each?
Yeah, there's not right now for me for any of the buildings. There's nothing less than $1 billion par steel. And I think if I want to upgrade my hangar, my ship hangar, I think that is 4.6 billion par steel alone. And even I think for me to go to level, if I want to promote to level 42, I've got to get my dilithium vault to level 41, and that dilithium vault is over 6 billion par steel.
Now, do you think
just
in
that
all your
one
time
upgrade,
and all your rating, do you think you've even rated 6 yet in the game total combined?
Oh yeah, I mean so like I said before, the numbers on your resources rated show what you get credit for is on your base ship amount, right? Your ship cargo. So anything you get out of Ston and the upgrades and that kind of stuff doesn't count towards your resources rated. And I'm at 8 billion. I'm over 8 billion in resources rated. But honestly, unless I want to spend money, the only way for me to upgrade any further is I have to rate a lot. And that's a topic that I know you and I have kind of on our agenda for a podcast is let's talk about rating and how to do it properly and what it really means and some interesting things to think about. But you've got to raid like continuously. And I've talked to Philip the First, right, who's number 1 on our server for rating now. P1, I call him. And so do many others. And he raids, that guy's really good at it. I mean, he's really good at raiding.
I always see,
and it's fun to raid.
Big Step. I feel like they're attached at the hip sometimes when it comes to raiding. If you see one, you always see the other.
Well, yeah, because they coordinate well together. But P1 is that guy's a master at raiding. He does it the way that he does for a specific reason. And I will tell you right now, the reason he's jumped from number 2 to number 1 in the last week or so is the only way for him to continue to progress in the game without spending any money is he has to raid. There's no other way to get there, right? You can't mine par steel fast enough to build up 1 billion or 6 billion in par steel, right? It would take you months.
Yeah.
So definitely. Your other option is raid. That's
we're definitely going to have some podcasts in the future, which we're going to talk about resources rated and I think I think you constantly have to adapt when it comes to resources rated with the new updates that came out with station defense and finding yourself a good alliance with some good raiders. And I really want to dive into that topic, but we're also going to have a special guest coming on in a future episode is a level 49 from a different server, not from server 22. And I'd be very interested to hear from the level 49, what kind of things they're facing right now, especially with build costs. I can only imagine at level 49. But we're also going to add to each one of our episodes is we're now going to do a player spotlight. And for today's player spotlight, he's a player on server 22, and his name's Nick Knight. Now, have you had any run-ins with Nick Knight? Because I do have a little bit of a backstory with him.
I have on both sides of the equation. So we've been on the same team before, and we've also had direct conflict in battles and other fun games and all that stuff over the last 16 or 18 months. So we've been back and forth, but I would say Nick and I have a good relationship in the game, even though we're well, I don't know where we're at right now. I know he was part of JLP recently, and then he's changed to a different team now. And I just noticed that today, so I don't know where he's at or where I interact with him, but I see him around, and he's level 39 or level 40 now, and does some pretty good stuff. But he's always been a consistent, kind of respectful player, at least to me, and as far as I can tell, to other players as well.
The show is going to be special when we do player spotlight, because it's really going to be our interactions with players. But Nick Knight, when he joined JLP, at the time, this is going back to when the game was pretty new, my station was always in Poon, and he moved his station to my planet. And I was probably one of the very first people that reached out to him via private message in game and said, hey, just so you know, people are going to be showing up daily trying to hit my station. And I knew right away this dude was an awesome dude, because he responded back with like, yeah, man, like, I can't wait. And at the time, he was a lower level than me, but obviously he's grown to now level 39 or 40, whatever he's standing at. He's got an ISS jelly, but he's always a cool dude, and definitely one of those guys on your alliance that will just throw down and will fight anyone and doesn't care. And that's why for a while he was a really great JLP member. But this is just what this section of our podcast is player spotlight, and we hope to add a new player every week for player spotlight and just talk about somebody from either server 22 or possible player spotlights from other servers.
No, that's good, and Nick's an very active player. And good at what he does, no question about it. But, so I'm glad you brought his name up.
Everyone out there listening in the galaxy, I appreciate you guys tuning in to episode 2 of Mine and Potatoes podcast. Hopefully our next episode, or coming up soon, will be that level 49. And I know he'll be able to give us all some really great insights of what we should all expect at those later levels. But
Yeah. So Johnny, on your end, what do you hope people got out of this episode? What's the message that you wanted to convey?
That it is a game of what me and you are doing. Maybe a lot of the stuff we're doing maybe isn't as cynical as everybody might believe. That we're not just strictly stat driven all the time, but we are trying to take the game that Scopely provides and create our own content, whether that is hitting miners or hitting different ships, and to have people react to us, because people reacting to us and acting with us is the reason we do this. So what about you, Potato? What would you say you hope people take out of
Yeah,
this?
uh, you know, I think what I want people to take out of this is one, we talked a little bit about why we do what we do, and I really don't want people to think that's a justification, and that you know you should just accept it because we explained it, right? You don't have to like what I do or what Johnny Chainsaw does, but understanding it maybe helps you develop your own play style, whatever that's going to be, and make sure you fit in the right alliance for your play style, and make that decision whether you belong there or don't. And rewards are clearly a big part of why you stay or why you leave. And to your point, Johnny, it's a game. Like, as much as it's possible to get frustrated, and I've been there, but I will tell you, the times that people think I'm angry or upset or flying off the handle or off my medications or whatever they think, isn't true. It's part of the act, right? It's part of the persona. And maybe before we close, I do have one question for you that I really want you to answer is, so you spent 16 or 18 months and you've created Johnny Chainsaw, right? And the entity of Johnny Chainsaw. Well, what if you wanted to be Johnny Flower Petals and be a nice player and join an alliance that had ROE? Do you think you could dig yourself out of that?
I would never do it. But let's just say, for argument's sake, I did decide to do it. I believe that I could go into another alliance if I wanted, strictly abide by ROE. But what I don't think would ever be possible is I don't think the rest of the galaxy would ever allow me to do that, which is okay. And as the game develops, I'm hoping my playstyle continues to be fun for me. And as I alluded to a little bit on the last episode, and then I alluded to again on this episode, is I am 3 builds away from getting my D4, and I'll have that level 34 shipyard. And I'm looking forward to that a lot because it's going to add a new dynamic to our server, because all these tier 8 Sallies that are able to just wipe the floor with my Bortus are now going to become obsolete. And I'm looking forward to that with tons of excitement of that new dynamic that I'm going to be able to bring to server 22.
Well, that's interesting, and it's okay with me whether you dig yourself out of it or not, because I'm personally at this point not afraid of you. but to be fair, it's one of those things. I wonder sometimes when I go off on a tangent or I go do the stuff I do, can I recover from it and kind of get back into the mainstream of many of the players? Or am I always going to be this slightly outsider where people are a little bit nervous about what the hell's Potato going to do? But you're kind of at the other end of the extreme of, you've always done what you do. Could you ever dig yourself out of that? And I don't know.
Yeah,
and to be fair, I don't know that you would want to either.
I was having a back and forth with a player. I won't mention their name, but I was hitting their ship. They kept tracking down my miners the very few times I mined just to get my dailies. Finding me, they kept hitting me. I was hitting them, and it was a constant back and forth. And I was having a lot of fun doing this. And man, when I tell you I misread mine and their relationship in game, I couldn't be any more wrong, because I'm not a big private message person. I don't send out a lot of messages. But I was like, all right, this is getting to the point where it's fun. So I'm going to shoot him out just like a joking troll message. And I wrote to him one time he hit my miner. I said, "Oh, thanks. You hit me out of ROE. I'm going to tell you your alliance leader." That message is a joke, right? Like, obviously everyone knows me. Oh my God, dude. The
Yep.
novel I got sent back to me from that simple joking message, but it just shows that I misread that quote unquote friendship I had with him totally wrong. So there are people like that who I think I'm having fun with, but are not enjoying it.
Yeah, and there's others who probably like you and I maybe, right? And you and I have battled many, many, many times in the past, but we've come to a place where we're respecting each other's play style and having conversations and understanding it. And I personally think this is good, right? Of course, there might be a lot of people on our server who think, oh my God, JohnyChainsaw and AZPotato are talking to each other. There's nothing more terrifying in that alliance.
No.
But we haven't allied with each other, right? We're doing podcasts together, we talk, we chat, we battle together, but we haven't formed any kind of
and you know what? I don't
alliance
think me and you would ever
with
be
each
able
other
to have a formal alliance in that. The exception if you ever did decide to give JLP a shot, but our play styles are, while yes, on the outside looking in, they seem very similar. And we've alluded to it earlier in the podcast, is we are very polar opposites with our play styles. And my ships are notoriously weak, yours are notoriously strong. But what me and you are doing is we're trying to of the social aspect of this game. And I hope that people listening to these podcasts are enjoying them and that we're shedding a little bit of light on ourselves. But in the future, I know what me and you really are trying to do with these podcasts is to educate people about the game too. And hopefully they're able to take something out of the game, whether in future episodes, I know we want to talk about different crews, different systems, like the tactics I use opposed to the tactics you use, and how the normal everyday player might be able to adapt those into their normal play style.
Yeah, and have people just take a minute and sit back and decide how they want to play. It doesn't have to be my play style, it doesn't have to be your play style or anybody else's. Make it your own. But at the end of the day, it's a game. You're here for entertainment. Play the way you want to play, and then find the right team, or go solo if you need to, as a result, like me, that fit your style. But go enjoy all parts of the game, whatever interests you. That's the key, right? We're not justifying what JohnyChainsaw does or what I do. We're just saying find your niche, find your style, find what you want to do, and then go do it, because why not? You're playing a game. Why can't you go do what you want to do? And if what you want to do is be part of an alliance and win events and fit within the rules that alliance has, that's awesome, right? And if part of it is I need to be free to play because I don't have any money that I'm willing to spend on the game, that's perfectly cool. And if you do have money and you want to spend it on the game, that's your call also.
And just, I hope
find your place. I guess that's kind of my message.
Podcast too is always play your game. And I don't care what that game is, whether your game is mining or hidden ships or fallen ROE or whatever your game is. Make sure that you're playing your game and you don't ever let anyone dictate to you to stop playing. Because once you stop playing your game and you start playing somebody else's game, you're going to lose the dynamic of this game that where you control your own destiny. Don't let other people control your destiny. And,
this has been a good conversation, and actually maybe better than what you and I talked about ahead of time, as far as the stuff we wanted to cover and the messages that we wanted out there. But
for those people out there,
it's
drop
good.
us a like.
Hopefully people get something out of it.
And feel free to write something in the comments. Let us know what you want to hear. If you guys are saying, you know what, Johnny and Potato, we don't want to hear as much about you. We want more tips and tactics. If you have any dark space questions, go ahead, ask them in the comments below. Potato will be able to answer those. If you have any frank questions you want to ask me, like, Johnny, are you just really a jerk? Or are you actually enjoying this game? Feel free to write those comments. We'll future podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. And so everybody, I guess, just fly safe out there, shield up. They matter.
Definitely.
And
so
go have some fun
episode 2
playing the game.
JohnyChainsaws and AZPotato68 podcast. See you guys at episode 3.